Hi Anirudh, welcome to our I2E Knowledge series. Super glad to have you here.
Hi, Jibin. I'm also really glad to be here.
Absolutely. Maybe before we start, maybe you can give us a brief, quick intro about yourself. That'd be great.
Yeah. I'll start with my undergrad. So I've done my engineering from VIT Vellore,
Okay.
BTech in civil. Then after that, I was into a couple of businesses, I would say. I like to define myself as a parallel entrepreneur and not a serial entrepreneur because I basically believe in doing a couple of things together. So one thing what I was doing then was I got into a startup called Medidart, which is essentially e-pharmacy, and I invested in it, and also I was a part-time director there. So I got into that business, and parallelly I was a little bit into real estate, and then into a family business which is into power projects. So I did this for about 3 years, and then in 2016 I joined the Indian School of Business for my PGP.
Okay.
After graduating from ISB, I joined the Economic Development Board, which was an initiative by the then Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. So this board was given the mandate to attract investments into the state and showcase the state to the entire world.
Right.
So that was the primary objective, and we used to work really closely with the chief minister in this. We used to handle the strategy of the state in terms of attending foreign delegations, events, receiving foreign investors, not just foreign investors, even domestic investors from other states, handling the corporate work of the state.
Correct.
So that was a fantastic experience, and I did that for about 1.5 years, first full time and then part time.
Okay.
Then after that, I thought, okay, let me get back to my business, and that is how I got into angel investing and the businesses which I'm doing right now, which are into real estate, logistics, and solar.
Got it. Awesome. So maybe spoke a little bit about your founding experience as well. Coming to the investment part of it, what are the types of investments that you're looking at, or rather, which was the first company that you invested in, and what was the thing that that made you invest in that particular company to start with?
Yeah. So the first investment I made was, as I said, Medidart. That was my first investment, but that was not more like an angel investor. It was because I wanted to be a part of the company.
Right.
In terms of angel investment, we formed a group on Let's Venture, and so we made several investments. I don't really recollect what was my first one, but we've done few companies such as Fable, Doxper, Onward Assist, MyHQ. Yeah, so these and Meadow. So these are some of the companies we're invested in. If you're talking about thesis, uh, frankly, I was new to angel investing when I started, so I would follow the advantage of a platform such as Let's Venture is you can follow a group or a syndicate or a lead investor.
Right.
So that's how I learned how to value a startup and what to look at in a startup.
Right.
So I tend to have a bias for startups with a good founding team or a pedigree. The IIMs, ISBs, and those sort of things. Unfortunately, I do have a bias towards that. But
Right.
apart from that, I think a big plus is if they've had prior entrepreneurial experience and if they've exited a startup, or you know what startups are popular, what are familiar. I think we have a lot of. I keep following the news, so that way I have a bias towards that. But at times the decision is purely not financial. I might like a sector, like something such as microfinance or agriculture. There are a few sectors which even though it doesn't fit into my typical a hot sector to invest in, or a sector which is growing, I might do it just uh, because of my interest in it, or because I would want to expand my traditional business into it. So some I do it because I'm passionate about the sector too.
Got it. So so what I'm here is you also look into partnership opportunities when you're investing, right? I mean, that
Yeah,
is
yeah,
something that we are converging. Got it.
yeah.
With respect to so some of the names that you mentioned that you invested in, when I looked at the companies, I see they are healthcare or related to med tech startups, right? Is this something
Yeah.
that you're interested in those kinds of startups, or this is some one of the segments that you're super interested in?
It's not a segment I'm super interested in, but then I think the startups which I invested in, such as I think the health tech startups are Meadow, Doxper, Onward Assist, and Fable. So Meadow has a really good founding team, and the lead investors are highly reputed. So that's what made me look at Meadow, and there's a lot of traction in terms of the number of investors, and a lot of things worked in Meadow's favor. And I think it was also followed by an investment from Sri Capital, a huge check, I think a $3 million check or something like that. So that's when I realized, okay, it helps to have known people in the ecosystem. It helps to, I mean, helps to have a lot of experience in terms of the kind of quality of the people involved, their previous startup experience. So this was one of the investments I made on that basis. And coming to Doxpo also was quite similar. Fable was something I mean, I believe, I spoke to the founding team and I really connected well with them. I understood their vision. And I also felt maybe I could also help them in terms of business development. And so that's when I think that's one of the major investments in which we did that together as a network. So by network, I mean, a bunch of my friends and us, we've all formed a network together on Let's Venture and we invested in it together.
Okay.
So Fable is one of our investments which is doing extremely well in terms of they've raised a lot of follow-on rounds at a higher valuation and things like that. So I think they're doing quite well.
Understood. So, one of the follow-on questions that you spoke about investing through Let's Venture, right? Are you looking at
Hmm.
investing individually also at an early stage and founder? Is that something of interest to you, or are you for the
Uh,
but typically when I ask founders, I ask them, how does your growth journey looks like? How does your next few months looks like, right? For you as an investor, how does your journey looks like as an investor? Are you looking to support at an early stage? Apart from maybe through Let's Venture itself, but at an early stage, are you looking at investing in early stage companies, also helping them grow through their growth journey, and eventually, maybe become a lead invest? So this, how do you look at growth, your growth journey?
yeah. So there are two parts to it. One thing is I'll just tell you, how angel investing has changed over the last couple of years. I would say earlier when I invested in Medidart, there were some issues with the angel investment in terms of the ticket size. So earlier it would be a single investor. So an investor would need to put in a certain sum of money for the founder to be interested in also. And what this led to was too many people getting onto the cap table and things like that.
Right.
And you couldn't diversify. Let's say if I had $1 million to invest, back then it used to be like this, where I had to put $1 million in one particular startup. Now today, with the norms which SEBI has come out with, and what platforms such as Let's Venture, AngelList, Venture Catalyst, all these have done, we get to diversify more, have smaller ticket sizes, and it also solves the problem of managing the startup. Let's say I put in a small amount in a startup, I can't spend all my time doing the due diligence, following up, etc. But when you have a fund manager or the platform, they do that for you. So you can focus more on the investment part in evaluating startups. And the biggest advantage is, you can follow the lead investors. There are a lot of lead and big investors. I mean, by big, I mean reputed investors. So you can invest along with them, and it's more or less the same valuation. So that way you learn a lot. You understand what they're doing, how are they doing. So that's about the how angel investing has changed over some time. So why, and that's also why I am more comfortable with investing through platforms such as this, and why a lot of people are getting into it off late, and why startup investing is growing as an asset class.
Right.
In terms of early stage, I wouldn't mind investing in early stage companies, but I would ideally do it if I feel the team is really good, or I believe execution is very important. It's not just the idea.
Right.
So maybe I would do it if it's if the team is extremely good, or if it makes sense for me to, if I could help them, if it makes sense for me strategically in terms of growing my business too. Like
Right.
I've entered logistics, the logistics space. So in this space, I would, it helps. I have some warehousing and some trucking requirements. So in this space, if I invest in a startup which is into which is like an aggregator of warehouses. There are a lot of such startups, or some startups which can give me more business in terms of trucking, because my trucks are idle at some times. So if
Correct.
I tie up with one of these startups, I could generate more business and make it more efficient
Right.
in terms of utilization and things like that. So maybe if there are opportunities like that, I would get into it.
Right.
But yeah, so these are the primary factors.
Understood. So to summarize, logistics is one one segment that you'd be interested in if you are to invest, right? And the second one is power with respect to solar, or power is the
Yeah,
second, and
renewable
the
energy. Yeah,
renewable
yeah.
energy, and the third one is you said mentioned medical,
Real estate.
real estate. Correct. Okay,
Real
got it.
estate. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. So with that, I think going to the next question. Before we move on to the next segment, also, is are there any companies that you wish you co-founded or you wish you invested for that matter?
So one sector which I feel I should have invested. I mean, this is a mixture of both passion and business sense. Is the plant-based meat market? The alternate. The alternate industry to food,
Right.
like
Right.
meat, such as, especially I think the most famous technologies are the ones which are related to plant-based meat.
Right.
So I think that is one sector which maybe I should have co-founded or invested early in some startup. I couldn't get on it very early, so I sort of missed the bus. But
Right.
that is one sector I think which is going to explode. I mean, there's a lot of discussions on the pros and cons of it, and people are for it and against it. But in terms of my passion, I think it would save a lot of violence. So that is one thing, and also it helps in terms of global warming, climate change. So I don't want to get into the deeper discussions of that. So in terms of that aspect, that's one thing I'm passionate about. And in terms of business, I don't know if mock meat will ever be mainstream food,
Right.
but at least I know the market is small and it's growing massively. It might not be the next big thing in terms of being a dominant player in the market or capturing 50% plus market share. But today the size of it is almost nothing, and I think it has the potential to grow at least 100 times.
Okay.
So I think that's a really hot sector to invest in or to start something in that.
So the
So,
plant
and
based.
and India also has some good companies today in this field.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the Beyond Burgers of India is something that you would like to invest
Yeah,
in. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Got it. And
yeah.
and which is your favorite book?
Uh, I think I keep saying this. I'm a big follower of Vedanta, so I would say uh, the teachings of Vedanta or something on the lines of Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
It's I think that's what captures my attention the most, and that's what I believe is something I really enjoy.
Got it. So with that, we come to
Yeah.
the end of our first segment and we move to our second segment, which is called as photo walk, where we have a couple of photos from your journey. Maybe if you can walk us through your memories of that pictures, that would be great.
Sure.
So here we have a first image.
Oh yeah. So this is the ex-cricketer Mr. VVS Lakshman. He had come down to Visakhapatnam for the match. He was I think doing commentary for the match,
Okay.
and I worked with him closely in. He's actually a family friend, and I worked with him closely in setting up an academy, a cricket academy, and getting few permissions with the government.
Okay.
So it was just a courtesy call. He'd come home to meet me and my friends and my family.
Awesome. And this is the second one.
Yeah, so this was during my stint at the Economic Development Board. As you can
Correct.
see, that's Mr. Chandrababu Naidu. I'm still associated with him in terms of a political organization.
Correct.
After he lost power, he's focusing on a couple of other initiatives, which I'm helping in my personal capacity.
Okay.
So, as you can see, the MOU exchange is a partnership between the AP government and Mastercard,
Okay.
because Mr. Naidu is a believer in technology, financial inclusion, and things like that. So, this is one of those. Yeah.
Awesome. And this is our next picture.
Yeah, so we have a trust, a family-run trust called Car Trust. Initially, we used to focus. I mean, it's been started in '91. So since then, the trust has been focusing on welfare-related activities, a lot of charitable activities, etc. Now, since I started getting involved, I'm looking at activities which have a bigger impact.
Okay.
I don't think we should just focus on things like providing free food and things like that, but also I want to get into things such as sustainability, impact investing, and the initiatives what we are doing now. We look at a long-term impact and not just helping for that single day or that particular meal. So that
Got it.
is one thing I'm very passionate about, and I work very closely and spend a lot of time on this.
Awesome. And this is our last image.
Yeah, solar. I think this was a photo taken on the World Environment Day,
Okay.
wearing a green shirt that doesn't look very green, but
Right.
in AP we've done a lot of rooftop solar projects, especially in Visakhapatnam.
Right.
So we will still continue to do so. And we have a lot of a lot of reputed clients.
So this is an end-to-end product line that you have.
End-to-end solution. End-to-end solution. We're empaneled by the I would say the state's body which looks into renewable energy. We're empaneled by them, and yeah, it's an end-to-end solution.
Got it. Okay. So with that, we come to the end of our photo walk segment, and our next segment is a rapid fire segment. Uh,
Okay.
so basically, we have a bunch of questions for you. You can
Okay.
take 5 to 10 seconds, nothing serious. Here's our first
Okay.
question. If you could trade lives with one entrepreneur or an investor for that matter for a day, who would it be and why?
Uh, I think that would be Mukesh Ambani.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the reasons. It's not because of the wealth he has.
Right.
It's more because I think Mukesh Ambani is one of the billionaires, or a leading businessman. Who's both into traditional businesses such as oil, petrochem, etc., etc. And he also has an eye for the new emerging and technology related businesses too. So if you can look in terms of 4G, Geo tying up with Facebook and the investments he's bringing in,
Right.
I typically, when you look at the top traditional businessmen in India, you don't see them uh, making such huge bets in technology and in how the today's businesses are being run. So I think he's a perfect example of how you bring about both the businesses and how you diversify. So that is something which I try to do because I'm also into traditional business, not obviously not at his scale, but in
Understood.
my own small way, I'm into both traditional businesses and also invest in tech companies.
Awesome. So the next question is, what product would you refuse to promote?
Uh, Meat, as
Okay.
as I've been mentioning, I'm a lot into plant-based meat and ahimsa and all that. So I
Okay.
wouldn't promote meat or any of that sort of businesses.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Uh, Again, so then we come to this question: what is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Uh, cheese, paneer,
Okay.
because for vegetarians we don't have much choice. So cheese and paneer, I think, is very important for me. Yeah.
Cool. If you could teach any subject, what would it be?
Uh, I think a lot of people today, two subjects, I would say. I'm sorry, two subjects though.
Absolutely.
One is finance.
Okay.
I mean, by finance, I'm talking about personal finance.
Yes.
That's not taught in India. That's not taught in schools. That's not taught in colleges. And a lot of people of my age and older people, they know a lot about their subjects which they've studied, but this is one subject which is universal to everyone. It's very important, and people I don't think have the right. I don't think they have the kind of awareness what one should have, considering you deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So personal finance is one thing, and the second part is spirituality, because of to understand things like on how to handle failure and how to looking inwards is a vast subject, as you know. So I think that helps a lot even in your in your business and your entrepreneurial journey. Also, I think it helps a lot. So these two subjects I would focus on: spirituality and financial literacy.
Awesome. And what is the best advice you've received so far?
There are so many. I make a lot of mistakes. There's so many things to learn. So everything seems like good advice. I don't have anything in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will skip this.
Fair enough. So, with that, we come to the end of that segment as well. So, before we break, I have two asks from you. First thing is, what
Yeah.
is the best way to reach you if one of our founders or one of our network members would like to reach out to you? It
WhatsApp message or LinkedIn. I think I'm very active on these two platforms. So
okay.
a simple WhatsApp message would do, or just reach me out on LinkedIn, because I'm active on LinkedIn too.
Awesome. And the second one, if you could recommend, one of your friends or investors or founders, one of the companies that you invest in, founders to this IT knowledge series, that you would like to see a chat like this, if you could recommend one or two people, that would be great.
So there is a company in which I'm investing in, and I'm also a part of.
Okay.
It's called Dwellingo, and the CEO and founder is a very close and dear friend of mine. And I think this is a very exciting concept,
Okay.
and I think I would recommend him. I would recommend him to you, and maybe you should hear it from him itself more about it. I wouldn't want to spoil the suspense.
Absolutely. Anirudh, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thanks a lot for joining
Yeah.
us on the IT knowledge series. Would love to keep
Okay.
in touch.
Thank you so much for having me here. Also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.